Hello students, welcome to IFRS classes, that is International Financial Reporting Standards. In this video we are going to work out numerical problems on impairment loss. Before going to the actual problem, let us recapitulate the equations or the formulas which are very much necessary for the computation of impairment loss. The first such equation is impairment loss is equals to carrying amount minus recoverable value. The main equation, the main formula which you use to calculate impairment loss is carrying amount of the asset minus recoverable value of the asset. Carrying amount minus recoverable value. So you should easily remember this. Impairment loss is equals to carrying amount minus recoverable value. Then what is this carrying amount? How do we calculate this carrying amount? Carrying amount of an asset is nothing but cost of the asset minus depreciation. Cost of the asset is the purchase price of the asset. As per IAS 16, when you purchase an asset, when you acquire an asset, or when you build or construct an asset, the cost involved in construction or the cost spent on acquiring an asset, that will be your cost of asset. So, initial purchase price of the cost, initial acquisition cost. So, from that cost, you are going to reduce the amount of depreciation. Actually, it should be accumulated depreciation. Accumulated depreciation means the number of years from the date of acquisition of the asset. For all those years, you are going to charge the depreciation. Let us say you have acquired an asset in the year 2015. And when you are going to calculate the carrying amount for the asset in the year 2020, you should be subtracting 5 years depreciation. So the depreciation should be subtracted from the date of the acquisition of the asset to the last date on which we are calculating its carrying value. Therefore, you can comfortably call it as cost of the asset minus accumulated depreciation. And when we are talking about depreciation, as you all know very well, there are many methods to calculate depreciation. But as per Indian accounting standards, straight line method of depreciation is the most widely used and accepted method. That is original cost method, or you can call it as fixed installment method also. So we calculate depreciation under straight line method or fixed installment method. So carrying amount is calculated by subtracting accumulated depreciation from cost of the asset. Purchase price of the asset ಇಂದ accumulated depreciation ಅನ್ನು ಲೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಸಿಗುವಂಥ ಅಮೌಂಟೇ ಕ್ಯಾರಿಯಿಂಗ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್. And depreciation should be always calculated on straight line method unless and otherwise stated in the problem. Now, so in this equation we know how to calculate carrying amount. What about recoverable value? The recoverable value is calculated by using this formula, that is value in use or fair value of the asset, whichever is higher. Recoverable value of an asset is the highest of value in use or fair value. We are talking about two concepts here, value in use and the other one is fair value of the asset. Out of these two figures, whichever is the highest figure will become our recoverable value of the asset. ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿ. ರಿಕವರಬಲ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಎರಡು ಅಮೌಂಟ್ಸನ್ನು ತಗೋಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇನ್ ಯೂಸು, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಫೇರ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ. ಈ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ಫೇರ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಎರಡರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೋ, whichever is the highest amount among these two figures, that will become our recoverable value. Okay, so the highest amount of value in use or fair value will be the recoverable value. But what is value in use? What is fair value? That you should understand. Value in use is the sum of discounted future cash flows. It is the sum total of the discounted future cash flows arising out of that particular asset. You see, any asset will be generating certain cash flows to the entity. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಅಸೆಟ್ಟು ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಯಾಕೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಅಸೆಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ಆ ಅಸೆಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಕಂಪನಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಕಮನ್ನು ಜನರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೊಡುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನೇ ನಾವು ಅಸೆಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಆ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಜನರೇಷನ್ ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ದಿ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಟು ದ ಎಂಟಿಟಿ ಇನ್ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್, not in the past or not in the present. The income from that asset is going to reach the hands of the organization at a future dates. Therefore, any money received in future date will not be equal to the present day's money. Therefore, we have to convert that future cash flows into present value. The asset will generate cash flows maybe after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years or 4 or 5 years or whatever it is. That amount of future cash flows should be discounted to its present value. We have studied this technique of discounting cash flows in financial management. At a considerable rate of discount, we discount the future cash flows so that that amount will be equated or brought to the present day's money's value. ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಅಸೆಟ್ಟಿನ ಫ್ಯೂಚರಲ್ಲಿ ಜನರೇಟ್ ಆಗುವಂತಹ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸಿನ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂವನ್ನು ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಅದನ್ನೇ ನಾವು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇನ್ ಯೂಸ್. ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಕೇಪಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಟು ಜನರೇಟ್ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ? ಫ್ಯೂಚರಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಒಂದು ಅಸೆಟ್ಟು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ಜನರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೋ ಅದನ್ನು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು, based on a considerable discounting rate, we multiply that with the present value factors. Present value factors ಜೊತೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ you will get present value. So the present value of future cash flows, ಅದನ್ನೇ ನಾವು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇನ್ ಯೂಸ್ is nothing but the present value of future cash flows generated by that asset. Then what is the fair value? Fair value is nothing but sales minus cost of disposal. Suppose if we are going to sell that asset in the market, we have decided to sell that asset in the market, what is the amount you are going to realize by selling that asset? ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟಿಯನ್ನು, ಅಸೆಟನ್ನು ನೀವು ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾರಾಟ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಎಷ್ಟು ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಮಾರಾಟ ಮಾಡಿ? ದಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ದ ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಮೈನಸ್ ಆ ಒಂದು ಅಸೆಟ್ಟನ್ನು ಮಾರಾಟ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಮ್ಗಾಗುವಂತಹ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಂಡಿಚರ್. ದ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಇನ್ಕರ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ರಿಯಲೈಸಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಅಸೆಟ್, ಫಾರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಅಸೆಟ್. It's not a simple thing, just like that going to the market and selling your asset. It's a huge property. You have to find the proper sellers, proper buyer. You have to sit with them. You have to transact. You have to discuss. You have to bargain, and you have to arrive at a price. Then there will be legal registration charges, consultancy fees, professional. Lots of things will be there. So, when a huge asset is sold, there will be certain expenses incurred. That expenses are called as cost of disposal. So fair value is nothing but sales minus cost of disposal. Once you understand these many equations and the meanings of the terms used here, it will be easy for you to work out problems based on impairment loss. Once again, let us study the terms and items which I have explained just now. First one is impairment loss, the amount of loss incurred by the organization by way of decrease in the value of its assets other than depreciation. ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲದಿರ ಬೇರೆ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಆಸ್ತಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕಡಿಮೆಯಾಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಅಸೆಟ್. If there is a decrease in the value of the asset other than depreciation, we call it as impairment loss. Depreciation is a normal, general, expected thing. We know that the value of asset will decrease because of its wear and tear, because of its usage. That is depreciation. That is expected decrease in value of the asset. But what we are talking about in this impairment is unexpected decrease in the value of asset. Unexpected, unforeseen decrease in the value of asset. We don't know that that particular asset will be impaired. A loss will incur. It happens because of various internal and external factors, because of obsolete technology or change in the prices in the market or damage for the asset or many other external factors. So, impairment loss is calculated by using this simple equation, that is carrying amount minus recoverable value of the asset. Carrying amount minus recoverable value of the asset. Then how do we calculate the carrying amount? Carrying amount equals to cost of the asset minus its depreciation, accumulated depreciation. Cost of the asset is the purchase price of the asset minus depreciation on it. Depends upon the number of years we are using that asset and the value and its any scrap value, like the formula we use for straight line method of depreciation. That is cost of the asset minus scrap value divided by life of the asset. So with the help of that formula we calculate the depreciation, and based on the number of years we have used that asset, accumulated depreciation will be subtracted from the purchase price of the asset. So carrying amount is equals to cost of asset minus depreciation. Then how do we calculate this recoverable value? To calculate recoverable value, you have to consider two things. One is value in use, the other one is fair value. The biggest amount, the highest amount out of value in use or fair value, that will be your recoverable value. And what is value in use? Value in use is the total of present values of future cash flows generated from that asset. And fair value is the total selling cost, selling value of the asset, sales value of the asset minus cost of disposal. Cost of disposal is nothing but the expenses incurred for selling an asset, that you call it as cost of disposal. Now, after understanding these many concepts, let us proceed further to work out a problem. Mass Limited gives the following estimates of cash flows relating to property, plant and equipment on 31st March 2014. Mass Limited, a company, gives the following estimates of cash flows. They are giving the estimated cash flows. Estimated cash flows means what? That these cash flows are generated by the asset in future. ಅದು ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದನೇ ಎಸ್ಟಿಮೇಟೆಡ್. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಫ್ಯೂಚರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಬರೀ ಎಸ್ಟಿಮೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ ನಮಗೆ. ಸೊ ಎಸ್ಟಿಮೇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ರಿಲೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟಿ, ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಎಕ್ವಿಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆನ್ 31st March 2014. ಆ ಎಕ್ಸನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ 1 ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ದೇರ್ ಫಾರ್ 31st March 2014. ಸೊ ಆನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಡೇಟ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗಿವನ್. ಸೊ 2014 March 31st ಡೇಟ್ಗೆ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗಿವನ್ ದ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದ ಡೇಟ್, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್. ದೇ ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಗಿವ್ ಫಾರ್ 12, 13 or 11. They should only give for 15, 16, 17, 18 like that. Now, and they have given a discount rate also. The discount rate is 15%. Rate of discount is 15%. Why they have given this discount rate? Because that future cash flows should be discounted to bring the present value. Now, the cash flows as given, or cash flows are given for 2014-15, it is 2000, and all the amounts are given in lakhs. You should note that. 2014-15, 2000 lakhs, 15-16, 3000 lakhs, 16-17, 3000 lakhs, 17-18, 4000 lakhs, 18-19, 2000 lakhs, and residual value at 31st March 2019. Residual value is nothing but scrap or salvage. Scrap or salvage. Final value of the asset after its lifetime. After the life of the asset, if anything is left over, if that is sold as a salvage, the amount realized by selling that salvage is called as scrap or residual value. That is 500 lakhs. So this particular information is useful for us to calculate value in use. This particular information is useful for us to calculate value in use. Then property, plant and equipment was purchased on 1/4/2011. X ಅನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ 1 ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ. Therefore follow that. Property, plant and equipment was purchased on 1/4/2011 for 20,000 lakhs. This is the purchase price of the asset. How do we use the purchase price here? We use purchase price when calculating carrying amount of the asset. Carrying amount of the asset ಅನ್ನು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಮೈನಸ್ ಅಕ್ಯುಮುಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಡೆಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಅಸೆಟ್. ದೆನ್ ಯೂಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಅಸೆಟ್ 8 years. Useful life of the asset 8 years. Then that is used for calculation of depreciation. Then residual value estimated at the end of 8 years, that is 500 lakhs. So residual value given here and here both are same. Residual values both are same. At the end of the life of the asset, at the end of 8 years, you have 500 lakhs residual value. Then fair value less cost to disposal. Fair value less cost to disposal. Fair value ಹೇಗೆ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಮೈನಸ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಡಿಸ್ಪೋಸಲ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ 10,000 lakhs they have given directly. So in this problem what you have to do is, first thing you should calculate the carrying amount of the asset. First thing is you should calculate carrying amount of the asset. Number 2, calculate value in use of the asset. Value in use. Number 3, fair value is given. Fair value is directly given in the question itself. Then compare the fair value and value in use. Compare the fair value and value in use. Whichever is higher will become your recoverable amount. Will become recoverable amount. So once you get the recoverable amount, carrying amount minus recoverable amount, you will get the impairment loss. Carrying amount minus recoverable value, you will get the impairment loss. Let us proceed to the solution of this sum. First thing, as I told you, we should calculate carrying amount as on 31st March 2014, because the information is given to us as on 31st March 2014 only. Therefore, for that date you have to calculate the carrying amount. To calculate carrying amount, first thing we need is purchase price of the asset. Purchase price of the asset, that is original cost of the asset 20,000 lakhs. Purchase price of the asset is 20,000 lakhs. Less depreciation. From the purchase price of the asset, we should subtract our depreciation. How many years depreciation we should calculate? So for that, you see the question. Property, plant and equipment was purchased on 1/4/2011. So 1/4/2011 means up to 31st March 2014. So from 1st April 2011 to 2012 it is 1 year. From 2012 to 2013 it is second year. From 2013 to 2014 it is third year. Therefore we have to calculate depreciation for 3 years. Depreciation is calculated for 3 years from the date of purchase. ನೋಡಿ, 2011 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಏಪ್ರಿಲ್ 1ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು 2011 ಇಂದ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. 2012ಗೆ 1 ಇಯರ್ ಆಗೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. 2013ಗೆ 2 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಆಗೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. 2014ಗೆ 3 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ 3 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನನ್ನು ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಹೌ ಡು ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ದ ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನ್? Depreciation is calculated under original cost method by using the formula cost of the asset minus residual value divided by life of the asset. Cost of the asset in this question is 20,000 lakhs minus residual value, that is scrap. Residual value athwa scrap athwa salvage is 500 lakhs. Therefore 20,000 minus 500 divided by 8. Divided by 8. What is 8? 8 is the life of the asset. 8 is the life of the asset. So 20,000 minus 500. So let us put the formula here. Cost of the asset minus salvage. Cost of the asset minus salvage divided by life of the asset. That is the formula we use. Cost of the asset minus salvage divided by life. Salvage andre scrap. Scrap andre residual value. Ella onde. So cost minus scrap divided by life, you get the depreciation, and with the depreciation multiply with the number of years, multiplied by number of years. For how many years you have to calculate the depreciation, you just multiply with that. So in this case it is 20,000 lakhs minus 500 lakhs divided by 8 years into 3 years, you will get 7,313. So when you subtract 7,313, that is depreciation, from 20,000, you will get 12,687, that is the carrying amount. So one thing we got, that is carrying amount. Carrying amount ಸಿಕ್ಬಿಡ್ತು. Carrying amount ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಮಾಡೋವಂಥದ್ದೇನು, ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಅಥವಾ ಒರಿಜಿನಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಮೈನಸ್ ಅಕ್ಯುಮುಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನ್. ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನನ್ನು ತುಂಬ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ಲಾಗಿ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಅಸೆಟ್ಟನ್ನು ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ಡೇಟಿಂದ ನಮಗೆ ಯಾವ ಡೇಟ್ಗೆ ಅವನು ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾನೋ ಆ ಡೇಟ್ವರೆಗೆ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನನ್ನು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. Sometimes it may be full years, sometimes it may be partial years also. In this case 3 years full ಬಂದಿದೆ. Sometimes dates ಅನ್ನು ತುಂಬ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ಲಾಗಿ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಒಂದೊಂದು ಸಲ 3.5 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, 4 months, 9 months ಆ ಥರ ಬಂದರೆ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಅಷ್ಟು ಇಯರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಮಂತ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ಲಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ರೈಟ್, ವಿತ್ ದಿಸ್ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾರಿಯಿಂಗ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್. ಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಗೋ ಟು ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ where you calculate value in use. Value in use ಅಂದರೆ present value of the future cash flows. ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ಕ್ವಶನಲ್ಲೇ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸಿ ದ ಕ್ವಶನ್. 2,000, 3,000, 3,000, 4,000, 2,000 ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ರೆಸಿಡಿಯಲ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕೂಡ ತೊಗೋಬೇಕು. ಫಿನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಸಮ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಟೇಕ್ ದಟ್ ರೆಸಿಡಿಯಲ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ the procedure is very simple. Discounting factors ಜೊತೆ just multiply it. Multiply the future cash flows with the discounting factors. And what about discounting factors? That will be given in the question paper. You need not worry about discounting factors. Discounting factors will be, ನೀವು ಫಿನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ಸ್ ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಹ್ಯಾಕ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ 10%, 12%, 15% ಡಿಸ್ಕೌಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್, ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಅಂದಾಗ ಅದನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಲೈಕ್ 0.869, 0.756, 0.658, 0.572, 0.497 ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. You need not worry about present value factors. That will be provided to you in the question paper. 100% damn sure they will give it in the question paper. You need not worry about that. Then, so ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? Let us prepare a table like this for the calculation of value in use. First column years, then second column cash flows, third column present value factors, last column amount. Then, so year wise 2014-15, 15-16, 17-18. So last year you include the residual value also. Residual value is nothing but the salvage or the scrap. In the last year you add the scrap amount also. So we have taken the cash flows as it is. Last year we have added the scrap, that is 2,000 plus 500. Last year we have added the residual value also. You have to remember that. So by taking the cash flows, write the present value factors that will be given in the problem itself. Then just multiply 2,000 into 0.869, that will be 1,738, and 3,000 into 0.756, that is 2,268. 3,000 into 0.658, that is 1,974. 4,000 into 0.572, you will get 2,288. And 2,500 into 0.497, that you will be getting 1,242. When you add all these amounts, you are getting 9,510. That is the value in use. Value in use. So two things we have calculated. One is carrying amount, and the second one is value in use. Now proceed to the next step where you are calculating the recoverable amount. Recoverable amount. Recoverable amount is the highest of value in use and fair value less cost of disposal. ಇವೆರಡು amount ಅಲ್ಲಿ whichever is higher will become your recoverable amount. In the previous step, just now, present values ಅನ್ನು multiply ಮಾಡಿ total ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು calculate ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, that is value in use, and fair value less cost of disposal is given in the question itself. If you look at the question, see, fair value less cost of disposal is given here 10,000. Therefore, we have the both. Value in use 9,510 we have calculated by multiplying the discounting factors. Then fair value less cost of disposal is given in the question. So in these two values, whichever is higher, highest yavadu 10,000. So 10,000 will be your recoverable amount. 10,000 will be your recoverable amount. Recoverable amount is the highest of value in use and fair value less cost of disposal. In this case, 10,000 is higher, therefore recoverable amount is 10,000. Now we got recoverable amount and carrying amount. Next step, we will proceed with calculation of impairment loss. Impairment loss is equals to carrying amount minus recoverable amount. Carrying amount we have calculated in the first step, that is 12,687. So 12,687 is the carrying amount minus recoverable amount is 10,000 minus 10,000. You are getting 2,687, that is impairment loss. Impairment loss. So carrying amount minus recoverable amount is impairment loss. We got 2,687 is the impairment loss. Once you calculate the impairment loss, sometimes in problems they might ask you to calculate revised depreciation. Revised depreciation calculate ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ? Go to the next step. Calculation of revised carrying amount. Original carrying amount was 12,687. We have calculated this in our first step. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ಪಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾರಿಯಿಂಗ್ ಅಮೌಂಟು. ಈಗ ಆ ಕ್ಯಾರಿಯಿಂಗ್ ಅಮೌಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಪೇರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಲಾಸನ್ನು ಲೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಅದು ಲಾಸು, ಸೊ ಲೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಅದನ್ನು ಲೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಸಿಗೋವಂಥದ್ದು ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ 10,000, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ರಿವೈಸ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾರಿಯಿಂಗ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್. ಡೋಂಟ್ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಕ್ಯಾರಿಯಿಂಗ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ರಿವೈಸ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾರಿಯಿಂಗ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್. Carrying amount is calculated in the beginning by subtracting accumulated depreciation from the purchase value of the asset. That is carrying amount. Revised carrying amount is calculated by subtracting impairment loss from carrying amount. Carrying amount alli impairment loss anna less ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಸಿಗುವಂಥ ಅಮೌಂಟೇ revised carrying amount. Once you calculate revised carrying amount, you should proceed with calculation of revised depreciation. Revised depreciation we calculate by revised carrying amount minus residual value divided by remaining life. Depreciation. The formula is same. Cost minus residual value divided by life of the asset. Same formula. A little bit we have been modifying this formula. Instead of taking it as original cost, we are taking revised carrying amount. You'll calculate ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ 10,000, that is revised carrying amount minus residual value, that is scrap, salvage, that is same, there is no change in that. So 10,000 minus 500 divided by remaining life. Remaining life means the total life of the asset is 8 years. Total life of the asset is 8 years. ಈ ಒಂದು ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟನ್ನು ತುಂಬ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ಲಾಗಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಅಸೆಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ 8 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಅದರ ಲೈಫು. ನಾವು ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು 2011ಅಲ್ಲಿ. 2011ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವೊಂದು ಅಸೆಟನ್ನು ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅದರ ಲೈಫ್ ಇತ್ತು 8 ಇಯರ್ಸು. ಈಗ ನಾವು 2014ಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀವಿ. 3 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಆಗೋಗಿದೆ. 3 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಆಗಲೇ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, ನೆನಪು ಇದೆಯಾ? ಎಸ್, 3 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ನಾವು ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ಸೊ 8ಅಲ್ಲಿ 3 ಹೋಯಿತು. ಸೊ ದ ರಿವೈಸ್ಡ್ ಲೈಫ್, ರಿಮೈನಿಂಗ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಈಸ್ 5 ಇಯರ್ಸ್. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ರಿಮೈನಿಂಗ್ ಲೈಫ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟೇಕನ್ ಹಿಯರ್. remaining life of the asset after calculation of impairment. ಇಂಪೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಲಾಸನ್ನು ನಾವು ಯಾವ ವರ್ಷ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ? 2014ಗೆ ಆ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ 3 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಆಗೋಗಿದೆ. 2011 ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು. ಸೊ 2014 ಅಂತಂದರೆ 3 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟೆಡ್. ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ದ ಲೈಫ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ಡ್ ಬೈ 3 ಇಯರ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಲೈಫ್ ವಾಸ್ 8 ಇಯರ್ಸ್. When 3 years is decreased, you are getting 5 years is the remaining life of the asset. So, our remaining life of the asset anna calculate madkondaga, the answer you are getting 1900 is the revised depreciation. So, from 2014, in future you are going to calculate 1900 lakhs as depreciation per year. So, I hope you understood all these concepts. Very carefully, thoroughly go through the sum. Watch it more than once. If you have any doubts, please call me.